Well, Paddy, how are you, mate? I was expecting a bit of an intro there that we usually have set up, but it has not come. So, welcome to the Villa Pride Down Under podcast, the Aston Villa podcast brought to you from Australia. But today we are streaming half Australia, half Ireland. I'm joined by my good friend and a well-known face here on the Villa content scene, Mr. Paddy Kelly from the Love of Mcgrath podcast. Paddy, first of all, thanks very much for joining us in short notice. We really, really appreciate it, as always. How are you keeping, pal?
You're more than welcome, pal. Yeah, all good. Always happy to jump on and have a chat with you, as you know. All refreshed and ready after 2 weeks without Villa, and looking forward to what's hopefully going to be a decent viewing for the next few weeks, where we play teams that are going to inflict their game on us, we would imagine, as opposed to us inflicting our game on others. But who's to say that we don't inflict our game on Spurs tomorrow? There will be a game plan. It will be tough, and it's one that I'm looking forward to. It's a battle I'm looking forward to, and it's always been a great battle between Unai Emery and Thomas Frank.
Yeah, and it's funny you started off with that, Paddy, because that's actually something I was going to get to you. And the season, as we know, has been kind of bad start, and we weren't playing well, but we know that there was other factors in that, so I'm not going to go down that route too much. I'm going to concentrate more on our recent form, because I think the first time the international break kind of came at the right time for us. I would argue maybe, apart from a couple of injuries, the international break probably came at a bad time for us, but this time, but maybe a bit of a... Oh, there's a guy here saying he can't see us, he can only hear us, which is not very good, is it? Oh, no.
Not ideal.
Not ideal at all. Okay, well, I don't really know how to fix that, because this was all set up, ready to go, but...
Yeah, he's right. I can see it on you. Oh no, I can see us. I can see us on YouTube.
Yeah. I think it is live, mate. Mark Smith, a regular listener. Mark, can you see us? Can you just confirm you can see the two of us properly, and just make sure it's not Ender's own link, because I'm pretty sure there's no issues on that. If you could give us the old thumbs up there, Mark, that you can see both myself and Paddy. Okay, Anders, great. Sorry, mate. But me in from Thailand there. Maybe it is an issue on your own end, mate. But anyway, we hope you keep listening anyway, Anders, because it's lovely to hear you from all parts of the globe. So welcome, Anders. And Mark, welcome. Mark is a very, very regular Paddy. He's regular on our old podcast. And I actually had the joy of meeting Mark and his son for a pint with an arms the last time I was back. So, and I know he's met Tess and Paul in the past as well. So Mark is always it's great to jump on. What I was going to say, Paddy, is I'm going to concentrate kind of recently on our recent form. Obviously, there was a bit of a turnaround and stuff. You mentioned there that you think it's going to possibly be better for us to coming into these games. I tend to agree, but do you want to kind of maybe explain to us why you think that?
I suppose that the big thing of what's coming down the line now is that we've got a number of fixtures that have, let's just say, against they're greedy six teams. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. So they're teams that are going to play football. They're not going to sit back and let us try and sort them out. It's up to them to figure us out. So it usually makes for a better game. We have had a reasonably good involvement against the likes of Spurs, the likes of Manchester City in recent years, and since then, those games, they're the games that I've been really looking forward to. Liverpool at the end of that 3-game run will be a little bit different. We've yet to really lay a glove on them. I know we got a 3-3 draw. The game me and you were at, Spud. I think that was the last time I saw you. But that's probably about the best that we've done against Liverpool in recent years. So they're 3 games that you've got to look forward to. You've got to judge where we're at on these performances, and I don't mean by results. I mean by the performances, because if we can put in decent performances against these 3 teams, we know that what happened at the start of the season was for other reasons and just a blip, and we can set sail again on the hopium that's going to bring us up into the higher echelons of the state of the table, and hopefully into Champions League again next year.
We know. I know we spoke in our private conversations over the years, Paddy, and we spoke about how highly we both rate Thomas Frank and what an incredible job he does everywhere he goes after taking over from Dean Smith. And we were both very impressed what he did with Brentford and the situation he had there. I suppose the difference between Thomas Frank and Ange Postecoglou is very evident that Thomas Frank can try and do both sides of the game and will do both sides of the game if he has to. He has no problem throwing 10 men behind the ball if the situation calls for it, and he has no problem throwing 10 men forward if he sees an opportunity. How do you think Emery approaches that approach? Because it's almost two managers that are going to see what the other is doing before they kick into gear, isn't it?
Yeah, but like you got to bear in mind that and no disrespect to Brentford, there's a huge expectation now on Thomas Frank going into a job at Spurs. Champions League football, expected to finish in the top four and really turn around what they did last year. So the Spurs fans and the pundits are not going to accept a Spurs team that goes 1-0 up and sits back and sees what Villa have. They're going to expect them to keep playing the system the same way Liverpool would, the same way even United do, the same way that Manchester City do, the same way that we do. So I expect an open, expansive game of football. Otherwise, the pressure, like if he goes 1-0 up after 3 minutes and then concedes in the 89th and 93rd minute, the pressure's all on him after that. So he can't afford that. Whereas if he goes 1-0 up, concedes after 10, then gets a late winner or whatever it finishes afterwards, it's classed as a proper footballing exercise. And I think that's the pressure that he's under, rather than us. So, I don't see any pressure on Unai Emery in this fixture. The bookies have them as hot favourites. So we've just got to go and be ourselves, and there's a few players that need to step up to the mark that haven't done so far this season. So we've got to hope that tomorrow is the day for them. We're coming off a good run of results. I was lucky enough to go to the last two games. I enjoyed both performances for different reasons, and there's no reason why we can't take it into this now that we've got a couple of players back on top of that as well.
What like, obviously there's only so much you can see on the TV, which obviously in Australia, I'm not complaining. I'm very blessed to be able to watch every game of my choosing, no matter what. We're very lucky for that, and I always say I don't understand why they don't have that option at home, but that's the rule. That's a whole different podcast. But there's still things you obviously don't see on TV that you do see in the game. Can you kind of touch a little bit, Paddy, some things that you noticed in the Feyenoord and Burnley game, improvements that you've seen in the season coming on?
It's just the organisation. I don't know whether it's improvements. I'm pretty sure this has been happening all throughout the season, but I've noticed the more hands-on Unai Emery in those two games. You remember the early days when people weren't used to his system. He was always very animated on the sideline, out on the edge of his technical area, sometimes in the doing the Arteta role of stepping onto the pitch and stuff like that. He was doing that in those two games. He was making sure people were on their game. It was complete conductor of the orchestra stuff, from what I can see. And from my coaching background that I love all that stuff and I love to watch what he's up to. And by the way, the technical area in Rotterdam is about 50 yards long, so it was mad looking at him running up and down. I just wanted to get into the other half of the pitch and roar. But look, we were very well drilled, very well organised. Never looked in danger in either game as such, although they had chances. Obviously, Feyenoord did have the ball in the net as well. Perhaps a little bit fortuitous that goal was ruled out. But they're no harm either, because as I said on our own podcast, that goal against Burnley was a little bit of a wake up call. You're not going to cruise through these games at Premier League level. There will be players that will punish you, and you will need to be on your toes for it.
Yeah, and I thought the Feyenoord was an interesting game. Like there was a lot of positives in it, but there was also times when it could have went the other way for us early in the game, I thought personally. But it was a turning point for us in many ways, because we kind of managed to ride the luck a little bit and stay compact, whereas we were getting a little bit of rub of the green that we weren't getting at the start of the season. And sometimes you just need that to turn your season, because I don't think they're doing a whole pile different, but the ball's starting to bounce in the right direction for them now and stuff. And we all know, we've all played football, and obviously not at that level, but you need a little bit of luck when things are just going against you, because sometimes it doesn't matter what you try, it just doesn't come off when things are against you, isn't it?
And some people say to you, create your own luck. And is he creating his own luck by sticking with the players that he has trusted throughout last season and have done a good job for him? And perhaps that is the case, that he has been rewarded, specifically in the case of Morgan Rogers, Ollie Watkins, players that haven't been firing yet this season. And the two of them should be flying going into these run of games. Morgan Rogers getting his first England goal. Ollie Watkins obviously getting a start. Hopefully he's overcome that injury. But you do create your own luck. I'm a firm believer in it. Sometimes luck goes against you in different ways, like as we saw in that Man United game in the last game of the season last year. But I do believe that the work he's putting in behind the scenes will eventually come to fruition. Perhaps we're seeing that already.
And a fitting firing, getting regular game time on the pitch, Boubacar Kamara makes a huge difference to the overall picture for us. I mean, like it'd be unfair of Emery to say his whole system is built around Kamara, but a lot of it is built around Kamara's attributes. And when he's missing, I don't think there's a player that we miss more on the pitch personally, just for the whole system for me. And he looks to be starting to finally get a bit of run of games, thankfully. But yeah, I think
he's such a calming influence on the game as well. When the ball is at his feet, he never looks frazzled or under pressure. He knows the process. He knows where players are going to be. He can hit that blind pass to anybody's feet. And I think his influence is running off on Lamar Bogard, because we're starting to see him playing that blind pass and knowing exactly where the players are going to be. So he's a good calming influence of those around him. It's great to have a player of that quality. And I suppose it's one thing to be thankful for Steven Gerrard left us with when he left the club.
him and Luke Godin, they're probably the only good things that Gerrard left us. I hope Dan Bardell and Dale from the AVFC Stato won't mind me robbing a stat of theirs, but it's just something I want to discuss with you, Paddy, because I found it phenomenal. But AVFC Stato was saying that it's the 20th game in a row that there hasn't been a draw between Villa and Spurs since 2012, since there's been a draw between us. I thought that was a phenomenal stat personally. That is a long run of games.
Wow. Yeah. That is that's an interesting one, all right. Who's to say we won't see one tomorrow? You just never know. But it's two teams that try and score goals and try and play football the right way. So you expect it to go either way. Spurs have always been that way for forever and ever. We obviously had those years in the Championship that we didn't get to play them, but I think this new stadium, with the exception of the Tonkin we took, was it last season or the one before, has been pretty kind to us. We've got some great results there. But
Ollie Watkins likes a goal there.
Ollie Watkins likes a goal there as well. Hopefully that'll come for him tomorrow. He just needs a kickstart, just something to push him on. And maybe that's the emergence of how well that Malin did in with him there against Burnley as well. That might spur him on a little bit more. But I look, you wouldn't back against the draw tomorrow anyway. That's for sure. The other stat that absolutely bamboozled me, and it was the only one I only caught the first few minutes of that talk between the two guys. We haven't lost a game in 10 after the international window. That's some going.
I wasn't aware of that. I wasn't aware of that either. Like, I mean, were you? Like, I was very surprised by that.
I would have said it was completely different to that. But it just goes to show what the manager can do with a prolonged bit of time on the pitch with certain players. Can have them up to speed, can have them ready going into games like this. And there is plenty of players that weren't on international duty, albeit we did have a good few first team players that were obviously not there. But even to get a run, some of them are back on Tuesday, some of them are back on Wednesday. To go Thursday, Sunday and try and work on a game plan between games is difficult. So to get the 3 or 4 days and the match being on a Sunday helps a little bit more as well. To have that extra bit of preparation is really, really good for the team.
It wouldn't be fair if we know, Paddy, with the information we don't have with international football and injuries and knocks and stuff, for me to ask you to name a team tomorrow. I'm not going to do that. It wouldn't be fair. But I might just ask you about a couple of players and your opinion on it, if that's okay. Do you think Bogard gets a run? Do you think he starts? I mean, sorry.
It depends, I think, on what he decides to do with John McGinn. If he plays John McGinn in the three behind Ollie Watkins, who we presume is going to be fit. If it's not, it'll be Daniel Malin. And if it's not Ollie Watkins, I'm pretty sure McGinn plays in the three behind. Then it could be Bogard. It could be Onana. There's players coming back into that as well. So I'm leaning towards him not playing on Sunday. But that's no slight on, as I said, on Lamar Bogard, because I've really been impressed with what I've seen of him as a footballer and as a growing footballer. And I think there's a great future there Is it going to happen overnight? Is he going to trust them to be in there week in, week out? Probably not. I think he goes with McGinn in that pivot, just on fitness alone for tomorrow. But, you know, we as we always say, you can't second guess this manager. It could as easily be. Who knows? Barkley's been back there for 2 weeks training. It's been Onana's been in there, and you just no way of second guessing him. But my opinion would be, based on fitness, that it will be McGinn and it will be Kamara in that role.
I tend to agree with you, and there's another reason I think that I tend to think it's going to be McGinn is because we know Paulinho is just going to kick lumps out of lads, and I just think that he might prefer to put McGinn into that situation than Bogart. Paulinho, like, it wouldn't be fair to say to Paul, he's just a hatchet man because he's an extremely good footballer to go with it. But he will throw kicks in, he will throw tackles, and maybe McGinn just might have the experience of that, because the midfield is going to be vitally important tomorrow. They've got some good players in there too, you know. And that's why I probably
you mentioned something huge there, and you know how volatile he can be in those challenges. And obviously, if you want some, Onana could do it, I know, but not in the way that McGinn can, with those progressive runs, taking players on, drawing tackles, drawing fouls. How many times you see McGinn been cleaned out and just clipped, and that brings an early yellow card for Vitinha, and all of a sudden his game changes. So fingers crossed that we can draw one of them out of him early on, and have him walking that tightrope and perhaps taking off just after half time.
And I feel even a bit silly asking this, but I think I've had to ask this question more than I expected to over the last few seasons. But Anders Jensen has touched off it there in the comments. Malin has looked really good in the Dutch team. Will Malin start tomorrow? That is, for me, that's I'll let you answer this, but I wouldn't be putting any money on it personally. But just your own opinion on it. Sorry, Paddy, you're just on silent. You're mute. Yeah.
I had a big cough there, so that's silent. I may as well have left it on. I think it would be incredibly harsh not to start him. He's done very, very well at international level. He's done well with us in that game against Burnley. Probably from a club point of view, the international break came at the wrong time for Daniel Malin. But then again, are we looking at a fully fit Ollie Watkins? And that's the biggest question we need answered before the team is picked. I personally would, with a player, now bear in mind, I met Daniel Malin 2 weeks ago after the match in the airport, and probably wrecked
I've seen the photo evidence.
Probably wrecked his head with a few questions that only someone that does a Villa podcast could ask. So I've I won't say too much, but I was patting him on the back and telling him how great he was, but that was partially due to the fact that I had spent the whole afternoon in the lower grounds drinking not free beer, but you know what I mean. It was on tap for all to take as you need it. So I was fairly well oiled when I bumped into him. But lovely guy, absolutely buzzing. Loves the fans. Said the fans have been absolutely brilliant to him. Bear in mind that he'd been left out of the Champions League squad last year. I think we owe him an awful lot. He's not a guy who, like, there's an awful lot of people will tell you Dutch people throw their dummies out of the pram very, very, very quickly. He is not that stereotypical player, and he has obviously been given promises by Unai Emery. Now, he's delivered against Burnley, and I think it would be really unfair to leave him out, but that's just my opinion. Who knows what Unai decides to do? Who knows if it's Thursday night that he gets thrown back in there to lead the line? It could very well be. There's a load of games coming up that he will need to alternate the strikers, alternate the attacking midfielders, alternate everywhere where possible. We see, like, I'm pretty sure we're going to see the likes of Bizot on Thursday night. So let's see what tomorrow brings. Let's see if Ollie Watkins gets through to training today, as Unai alluded to, and I think that will have a big bearing on whether Daniel Malin plays or not.
Yeah, I think it'd be, as I agree with you, it'd be very unfair not to drop him, especially when he's in a bit of form, because if he's staying as positive he is, that would surely eat away at the positivity that's left if he's on such a good run of form and it gets pulled away from him. But it's nice to hear that from your conversation with him, that he feels, you get the feeling that he's settled and he's happy, which is I couldn't have put money on to be guaranteed, but I think you caught him as well at a good time when he was after his 2 goals. And no, I like him though, and I like him though as well. And he's one of those players that it's really hard to read if Emery liked them or not, but it just seems to be an Emery project. So I'm hoping he'll be around for the foreseeable future, because we don't really have anyone else like him, and that's you know what a big fan I was of Diaby. For the faults he had, I still think that he could have went on to be an amazing player for us given a season or two. And I think I think he's the closest thing that we've come to any kind of a replacement for Diaby in a system. So more up to him. Ian Matson is the last one I'm going to pester you about, Paddy. Do we see him tomorrow?
I had this discussion with Neil last night. For me, it's a no, just on defensive capabilities and experience in these kind of situations. It's a Luca Dean game for me. That is not a slight on Ian Matson. I really like him as a player, but mainly in his attacking ability. We saw him come on the left side of midfield when Dia went down against Burnley with that concussion. So it's very possible that he's left to do a similar job, to come in and possibly look fresher than what Luca Dean will give us for 60 or 70 minutes, and that's how I envisage tomorrow going. I don't think any bolters come in at the back. I don't think we see someone. I don't even think we see Tyrone Mings come back in there. I think a fully fit Pau Torres starts. I think Digne complements him a lot better than Matson does, and I don't think we're quite ready for what Matson brings us against the bigger boys. I'm not even sure I'm putting Spurs in that class just yet. I still think we have a better chance of getting a win tomorrow than we do in the 2 games after. But I just think he will play it safe in these 3 league games, and the likes of Matson, the likes of Bizot, the likes of Tyrone Mings go back in and get minutes. Garcia will be the Thursday night games until they're up to full speed and fully fit again. But we've said it before, and we'll say it again. Who are we to second guess this maestro? He's a firm believer in horses for courses, and he might see a weakness down that wing. He might see a need to put him in there to. His name escapes me. That winger,
Kudus, Mohamed Kudus. I think
he might see the need to push Kudus back a bit deeper, and that could be a job for Matson, and he could see that the Matson's pace and durability and obviously the great engine that he has could be the key tomorrow for just standing up Kudus, rather than a tough tackling, no nonsense defender that Luca Dean is. Obviously, that's not all he is. He does offer a good bit in attack. He gets into great positions for getting crosses into the area. So I'm just going on devil's advocate with both options, and neither would surprise me and neither would annoy me by any stretch of the imagination. But I'm expecting it to be Luca Dean, if that makes sense.
But if you're on Emery, and considering the start we've had, and there's been a slight turnaround, and you're looking at these 3 games, and let's not sugarcoat it. It's 3 tough games in a row. We probably could have done without it, but look, or as yourself said, it could be a good thing to meet the 3 of them. He's looking at that, but totally from a points total, given where we are at the moment, what would you think he'd walk away happy with? Like, he's never going to be ecstatic, but what do you think if he was given a points total from those 3 games right now, what do you think he would see as a success?
Well, as you know, I can be quite harsh and quite cutting when it comes to these type of things, and I'd like to think that I could second guess what the manager would want, and I believe he thinks he can come out of this with 5 points. I think that would be his target. I think if he was to win tomorrow and get 2 draws against Manchester City and Liverpool, I think he'd be delighted. I think I'd be delighted, but we know he's a perfectionist. We know what his expectations are, and I think he sees this as a little mini league for the next, for the month of November with the 3 games that are there. Or it's not even that far, is it? They're only in 2 weeks. They'll run very, very quickly. I think he'll look back on the 1st of November when we play Liverpool, and he might say, we probably could have got 9 points there and we got 7, or we got 5, and be a little bit critical of whoever caused it. But I think for me, if we got 5 points out of this, it puts us in a really good place. It has kept these 3 teams within touching distance, and it allows us push on against perceivably less difficult opposition. But we know in the Premier League at this stage that it's capable of throwing anything at you. And look, we'll reserve judgment till it's over. But for me, it's 5 points. I presume he'll want 9. I think he'd be happy with 5.
Like, we're playing Spurs tomorrow, and we know Spurs are in the Champions League after what can only be considered an awful league campaign. I've heard on many discussions amongst Villa fans and stuff. And would you take the situation that Spurs had last season, where they won the Europa League, got to the Champions League, but had an awful season? No, I've heard fans say they would. Other fans say make the season too long, watching us suffering so long in the league. But with Unai Emery, I think if either doesn't happen, he won't be happy in himself. Like, I don't think he'll, even though the end result is the same, if we win the Europa League, you get into the Champions League, pride would be hurt off for him. I don't think he'd accept 15th, 14th and win the Europa League, no. even though it effectively it's the same thing. But it's the same end prize. But I don't think he'd accept it. I don't think he'd accept it as much as Ange Postecoglou did last year. I know he didn't have much of a choice, but it doesn't seem it. The Premier League seems to be where he wants to prove himself, doesn't it? No doubt he wants a trophy too, but he wants Villa to be up amongst the top teams in the Premier League.
Yeah, and I think we'll see that in the next 3 weeks with the teams he put out against Go Ahead Eagles and Young Boys. Is Young Boys? Whatever
yeah.
Next 2 winnable fixtures. I think we'll see a lot of rotation in those games. For me, I know everybody says, he's aiming towards winning the Europa League. He's aiming towards winning everything. That's the mindset of a winner. You go and expect it to be in with a shout of winning all competitions. For me, we have to be as strong as possible in the Premier League, because as we all know, one rush of blood to the head, like an Emi Martinez against Manchester United, and the Europa League is gone. We lose the knockout game because of it. Or then again, one rush of blood to the head and the referee blowing his whistle too quickly costs us a game in a knockout game. So you can't legislate for that. So you've got to be consistent in the league. You've got to be as high as you possibly can. And looking at the fixtures, looking at where we are, I think in 2 weeks' time we'll have a better picture of what the future of our Premier League season looks like. I don't think until February or March that he'd be giving up on European football next year, unless we're languishing the bottom 3, which I don't see happening. But we can still it's so tight. The Premier League is so tight these days because of how hard. I don't want to call them the lesser teams, but the teams that have just come into the league, the teams that are kind of sustainable in the league, because of how hard they make the games for the better sides. There's nobody coming out with 4 or 5-0 wins week in, week out, like we did back in, like we saw back in the day when the likes of Arsenal were the invincibles and Man United were winning everything all around them. That just doesn't happen these days. Managers are coming out with 1-0 wins, 2-1 wins, 3-2 wins, and they are delighted with that. All that matters is those 3 points. Goal difference isn't even taken into considerations. They're not even bothered with clean sheets. They just need to keep winning matches. Clean sheets, I think, will be a thing of the past, the way modern football has gone, the way risks are taken by taking the ball out from the back. Those short, crisp passes are intended to be intercepted and are intercepted regularly. And, we've seen... Jesus, I saw a stat now and it just escapes me. One of the teams, I think it was, could have been Manchester United, that played over 30 long balls into the opposition half, which we haven't seen in how many years. Yeah. It's I could be wrong now, and apologies if I am wrong. And a lot of those were from the goalkeeper kick out, so they weren't taking that risk. They wanted to see out the game. It must have been Man United. I'm pretty sure they played a big game. Was it the Derby game maybe? And in the same game, we had 12 long throws into the box. Like this is all a throwback.
The long throws are coming back, Paddy, aren't they? You see a few of them in every game now, aren't they? People are starting to realise their use again, like.
Yeah, well, if we're going to be in that situation, we're going to see Onana in front post with the win these headers. That's the way it's going to go for us. But look, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I don't envisage we'll see too many of them tomorrow, and it's not the kind of Thomas Frank move I would imagine with a team like this at his disposal. Because don't forget that a lot of these footballers again are based on not giving the ball away, and you know the game is all analytical now. It's all about your passing percentage, your possession, how long you have possession for. So they don't want to come in Monday morning and have to listen to guff from a video analysis about how long they had on the ball and how long they gave it away, or how many passes they were incomplete. So you know, there's a lot of this happens with better footballing sides. The teams down at the bottom are just totally focused on results, but it is a very analytical game, and we'll just have to put up with that against the teams that are down the bottom, unfortunately.
Paddy, I appreciate you're busy, so I don't want to keep you too long. But we probably 52 people in the comments there at the moment, which is really good, lads, for such a short notice pod. And just myself and Tess, obviously, the last month we haven't been getting the content out. I was away in Indonesia. I started a new job. I've been up the walls, crazy. Tess had school holidays with the kids. He was away camping. His kids were down the in-laws, and we just had so much going on, and it just wasn't working out. So thanks to everybody that jumped into the comments there and jumped in and watched us there today again. We will be starting to get it out regularly. We have a good run. I'm not disappearing out of the country for another long time. And Tess is. But Paddy, just before you go, with the 54 people listening to us, can you just give us a bit of a rundown here on Trip to Feyenoord, Paddy? Because it was such a special trip that I know you've been wanting to make for a long, long time, and I don't think there's a Villa fan out there that that didn't want to make that trip, no matter what generation they're from. Do you want to kind of just give us a run through of how it all came about and in the end of the day, and what it meant to you personally?
Well, it meant a lot to me personally, because as you know, Spud, and I presume the people in the comments won't know this, but I'm actually a Feyenoord fan as well, and I'd only ever seen Feyenoord play away from home. So to get a trip to the Kuip was always on my bucket list, coupled with the fact that it was where Villa won the European Cup, and to get in there and sit behind the goal where Peter Witt put the ball in, you know, it's a goosebumps moment as a Villa fan. The whole Feyenoord experience within the stadium is amazing. You know, the light show, the little mini rave they have, the old boy coming out singing the anthem before the players come on the pitch. It's something I dreamed of watching on a big European night. I didn't ever believe I was going to see it from the away end. So I keep getting this wrong. It's 27 or 28 years since my last European away trip with Aston Villa, which was Atletico Madrid in the quarterfinal of the UEFA Cup, as it was then. To go back to mainland Europe with my son to watch Villa play, it was incredible, because how I've managed to keep him as a Villa fan for all these years, through the barren years, being a season ticket holder through the Championship, to finally get to bring him to a European game. And it was probably, and as luck would have it, he's going to America to college in January. So as luck would have it, it was probably the last chance that we would have got in this season for sure. And who knows?
Oh, I think really, wasn't it? Like what a game to choose too, Paddy. I'd say if you were hand picked the game, it would either been Feyenoord away or Celtic away for his last game, wouldn't it?
Or Rangers away might have been a bit fun, all right. Yeah, but it was a brilliant trip. We met so many people that listened to our own podcast, so many friends of ours along the way. We stayed with our good friends Mark and Emma Wood, who you've met before. We just had an amazing couple of days walking around Rotterdam, you know, and one of the personal highlights was the day after the game. We went for brunch, let's say, because we didn't surface from the bed too early, and we walked into where the fan zone was the day before, and the waitress came out and went, "Oh, you're back." She said, your fans have been absolutely incredible. We'd have you back 10 times over, even over our own fans. And I thought, well, you know, amazing, well done, Villa fans. You've really done the club proud. And in a time where the media are just trying to drag our club into negative news, to hear something like that, obviously people on your podcast wouldn't have heard me saying it, But it means the world to me that people think that of Villa fans. And look, I know we've all got a bad element. No matter what club you are, there's a bad element. There's an awful lot of them with Feyenoord. I know that too. So it was pleasurable to hear that as a Villa fan, away from home, so far away from home, and back in the city where we won the European Cup. And long may that continue, and long may our Villa fans continue to behave themselves on these trips.
Did the locals in Feyenoord make you feel welcome? So pretty much, there was no real tension throughout the city or anything?
Well, it can get a bit feisty with Feyenoord fans. They're well known for causing a bit of a ruckus and a dust up, but very well run, I thought, by the police. To get on the train, you had to be in the fan zone before the game. So when I say fan zone, it was a harbour area that was cordoned off. You were let in when they saw you had an away match ticket, and you had a choice of about 7 or 8 different pubs and restaurants that you could eat or drink in. Everyone was corralled into that area, and then, like by magic, this tunnel opens up that brings you into Central Station, onto the platform, and away you go out to the stadium. And the first Feyenoord fan you see was either at the far side of the harbour or at the far side of the plastic fence that's in front of you in the away end, which was amazing and very well done, I have to say, by the Dutch police. And I think bar a little bit of pushing and shoving that happened trying to get into the stadium, everyone was wondering what the hell was going on, but it was just issues with turnstiles and what have you, trying to get us through. And eventually they got rid of the first turnstile and started to move people in a little bit quicker. And once we got into our seat, then everything was fine, and you know, it was just an electric atmosphere. Thankfully, we were on the winning side, and we were locked in for maybe a half an hour beforehand, and then exactly the same thing. Back on the train, back into the centre of Rotterdam. Very few Feyenoord fans around, being a Thursday night and having work the next morning. So the only downside was that there was very little open when we got back into Rotterdam. So we had to settle for a drink at the hotel and just a chilled reflection on what was an incredible day and an incredible trip overall.
It was that was, I must say now, Paddy, that was one of the things that surprised me, because as we know, like, I'm 7 or 8 hours ahead of you or behind you in some situations, depending if I'm at work or you're at work, how our day is going. But I'm 7 hours ahead of you, and you text me when you got back to Rotterdam, and we were both very surprised at how quiet it was around the city, wasn't it? Like that surprised me. And I know it's Thursday night, but I don't know. I suppose I've been to Amsterdam a couple of times. I know how lively Amsterdam can be, so I suppose I just assumed Rotterdam would be the same, you know.
Yeah, I did too. I was expecting it. I was expecting to have to maybe run the gauntlet of a few Rotterdam fans being in around the town, but they were in the town on the Wednesday night, but they were few and far between, thankfully. So hopefully they just decided not to risk it on the Thursday night, because there'd been a whole lot more Villa fans in town. But yeah, it was quite quiet. The bouncers didn't want to let us in, and that, look, that's their prerogative. If you don't want to let someone in, you don't let someone in. So. Yeah. It did curtail the night a little bit earlier than we hoped, but by that stage it was well after midnight. You know, the match kicked off at 9:15 local time.
9, yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't the end of the world. It was a magic day. I really enjoyed it, and roll on the next one, I say.
And just to finish up there, do you want to explain to the listeners what happened where you had to go after the Feyenoord game in your little trip?
Oh,
this is dedication here, people.
Yeah, I think I got back to the house for about 8 hours, and back out to Shannon Airport to go to Birmingham for the Burnley game. So yeah, I have a very understanding family, thank God, and yeah, I might have a break now for a few weeks and not risk opening my mouth about going back to Villa Park. But
I was just going to ask you, have you any other game earmarked at the moment? But I think it's probably a bit soon to be asking you that. But as we always say, Paddy, what's our famous saying? It's better to ask for. Sometimes that's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
guys,
I won't be asking for either for a while.
I won't keep Paddy any longer. I really appreciate the time you've given me, Paddy, as always. 79 people in the comments today on a short notice podcast, lads. I really appreciate that. As I said, I know myself and Tess have been a bit quiet the last month, but that's gone. We just had a lot going on in our lives, and unfortunately, we can't really control certain aspects of life, because we are, like Paddy, like these content creators, we all have families to outside of this, and things just add up. But we will get out content regularly again, and we'll definitely have you on again soon, Paddy, because we always love having yourself on and Neil on. Paddy, Joe, do you want to give a little rundown of what you have coming up over the next couple of weeks and stuff? Like, are you doing a team sheet tantrum tomorrow, or what's your kind of plans?
Yeah, as always, most games, just as the team sheet is announced, myself and Neil will be on to talk through what the Maestros decided to put on the pitch. Always one of the most interesting podcasts of the week, because we obviously don't know what he's got up his sleeve ahead of any kickoff. So you'll find myself and Neil 1 hour 15 minutes before nearly every game. The European games is a bit later or earlier, I'm not sure. Anyway, but if you go over to For the Love of Paul Mcgrath, and switch on your notifications, you'll be notified as soon as we go live, or follow either us on Twitter, and we'll be there. And we do a little bit during the week as well. Neil normally gets stuck with the post-match podcast, and then I come on early in the week to run over what's gone on over the weekend. And we normally get 3 or 4 podcasts out a week, so and it's all totally free, just like your own, just the way podcasting should be.
Just building a community, mate, isn't it? Building a community. Exactly. And just having a chat, isn't it? That's what it's all about. Everybody in the comments, thanks very much, and everyone that tuned in to listen, we really, really appreciate it. You're going to get sick of me waffling about it. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. We do this for fun. We don't do this for money, but obviously it helps us get out there. The more people that hit the like and subscribe button. Paddy Kelly, thank you very, very much, mate, and I look forward to chatting to you again soon. To all the guys in the comments again, really appreciate it. And I'll let Paddy say all that's left to say.
Is up the Villa.
Up the Villa. Thank you, guys. See you again soon. Cheers.